We've been hearing about issues with new houses and the nightmares that the buyers of those houses can face if things go wrong. Now, the Stretford MP, Kate Green, is now calling for greater protection for those home buyers because she's been inundated with complaints from people who've bought brand new houses from housing developers, and things are just not right. We're going to speak to her in just a minute, but first, our political reporter Matt Bones with me. Now, Matt, you've been out meeting these people who live on one particular estate in Davyhulme where they've spent years saving for these houses, bought these brand new shiny, new modern properties, only to realise that they need to get walls replastered and there's cracks that need to be filled in, and badly fitted kitchens and bathrooms have had to be refitted, haven't they?
Yeah, so this is a particularly bad example of what can go wrong when you're buying a brand new house. What often happens is, as in this case, homes are bought what's called off-plan. So you buy the house before you've even seen it. It's not even been built yet. And you go through the process and then you get the keys, and by the time the house is built, it's already yours.
And the builders have all shipped out, haven't they?
Exactly, yeah. Now, the expectation with new houses, a new build, is it can be a bit of a safer bet than an older house. You wouldn't expect to come across as many issues as you would otherwise. But snagging lists are often common, and these are sort of often little problems that, like, broken guttering, something like that, which should be fixed quickly. But in many instances, it can be much worse than that and take much longer to be fixed. And this estate in Davyhulme is one of those examples. I spoke to Lisa Abel, who bought one of these new houses, and she said she just had problem after problem.
When I came into the house, I had to clear out all the workmen's gear, drain pipes, tiles. And then once I'd chipped all the cement off the floor in every room, I started noticing things that were wrong with the house. The toilet in the ensuite was flushing boiling water. They'd fitted the pipes above the floor instead of putting the pipes under, so the whole ensuite had to be ripped out, and the doors didn't fit properly. The plasterwork was horrendous. I had to have the walls and the ceilings re-skimmed, so there was just dust sheets everywhere.
What the developers always say with new houses are, if you have some issues, we come and fix them. So was it a case of you had some issues, they came round, it was sorted?
They did eventually come round, but because they were meeting deadlines with getting the second phase houses, third phase houses, we never saw anyone for about 3 months.
What did it feel like when you came into that? Just if you can picture it for the first time, just walking in and seeing what it was like.
Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. I genuinely thought I'd been hoodwinked out of my money. I'd signed the contract, they'd all been exchanged, everything was in place, the house was mine, and I just didn't want it. I wanted my money back.
I mean, it's just sad, isn't it, that someone would save up, like you say, to buy a house of their dreams and then not even have the energy to fight it anymore, to complain.
Yeah, that's basically what Lisa's saying there. She's been complaining for so long that she's just sort of, if it's something that she can live with, she just lives with it now. I mean, we did contact Persimmon Homes, and Mark Cook, who's the regional manager for the Northwest area, said that we always work with our customers to address outstanding issues, and we take our customer service extremely seriously and are wholeheartedly committed to resolving any issues that arise. I would always urge customers who've got concerns to contact our customer care team directly. And it's worth saying, in many cases, new house sales do go through well. There are often some snags that are resolved quickly, but a recent independent survey did make for some worrying reading. The New Homes Review recently found 9 out of 10 people who bought homes in the last 12 months said there were defects when they moved in. That includes those sort of snagging lists we have one or two to look at. Yeah, but 1 in 4 said those problems weren't dealt with quickly, and around a third of new homeowners said they didn't think the new house was good value for money. There are some high-profile examples from across the country that we've heard about in recent sort of months as well. There's one home in Worcestershire, for example, that had 364 defects that needed fixing. So
that's quite a snagging list, isn't it? Well, Kate Green is the MP for Stretford and Urmston. She's on the line now. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning, Chelsea.
How common is Lisa's story then? You hear this more often than we do, so how common is it?
So it was Lisa and her neighbours in Davyhulme in my constituency who first alerted me to the problem, but when I began to raise it in Parliament, because I really wasn't getting anywhere with Persimmon Persimmon, I was then inundated both with comments from other MPs saying, yeah, I've got constituents with similar problems with a whole range of developers, and indeed from people right across the country who began emailing, posting on my Facebook page, tweeting me to tell me that right up and down the country they were having real problems both with poor quality workmanship and then very, very poor customer service when they tried to get defects rectified.
So it's clearly a big issue then. What currently is wrong with how new homes are bought, do you think?
I think there's very little consumer protection for a new home buyer. You get less protection when you buy a house, frankly, than you do when you're buying a kettle. You're not covered by the sale of goods legislation, so you can't just return the house and ask for your money back. We know that warranty schemes, which people think give them a 10-year guarantee, actually only cover very serious defects, structural defects, after the first 2 years. Matt talked about the buying off plan, where people get the keys without being able to go in and have a last look at the house before they're committed to the purchase. And we also know that when people try to complain, the complaints procedures are very, very complicated, and it's very, very hard for buyers to get redress.
Sometimes buying off plan is nice. If you get in early enough, you can pick your own kitchen and your flooring and all that kind of thing. Sometimes as well, doing that, you get the property a little bit cheaper. Would that be any sort of buffer for these people who then find that the house that they get has got issues with it?
Well, people may well choose to buy off plan because, as you say, it gives you a bit more freedom to choose the fittings, and you may get a bit of a discount. But I still think you should be able to see the property you're buying before you're forced to take the keys and finalise the purchase. And so one of the things that I'm calling for is for those pre-moving in inspections to become part of the standard process. And I think Lisa put her finger on it when she said that, of course, what's really driving these companies is their profits, their sales targets. So once you've taken the keys, they just don't want to know. And that's why we're also looking into whether it would make sense for a retention of perhaps 2.5% of the purchase price to be held back for 6 months to make sure that if the builder doesn't complete those repairs and rectifications, then they wouldn't get all of their money.
Is there any chance, do you think, of this actually happening? I mean, the government have not been particularly enthusiastic with all this Brexit stuff. They've got other things on their mind. Do you think it's likely to happen at all?
So just before Christmas, I held a debate in Parliament. A number of MPs joined me in putting all our concerns to the government minister. She was sympathetic. I'm pleased that the government have committed to introducing a new homes ombudsman that would give people a proper independent complaints process, although we don't know when that's going to happen. As you say, Brexit is squeezing out all the time for other legislation. And of course, a lot of the other suggestions that I and colleagues are making for improvements in the system, the government is saying, oh yeah, well, the industry will sort all of those out. It'll put its own house in order. I don't think people really have much faith in the industry at the moment to do that. And I think government needs to take a much firmer grip on the problems that people are experiencing and seeing their dream homes turning into a nightmare.
And like you said, you know, it's already an issue. You know that. And we've talked, Matt, haven't we, about all these new homes that are being developed under this new spatial framework and all the rest of it. It might possibly be a problem that will get worse the more people that move into these houses that are being built. So we're very keen to follow it, Kate.
Yeah, good.
And we shall find out what happens in the future. MP for Stretford and Urmston, Kate Green, thanks for talking to us this morning.
Thank you.